Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. And I'm very delighted to be here this afternoon and so grateful that Gail invited me to come. I've written down all kinds of fun things to talk to you about, things that have happened, all the fun years of my crazy career as a jazz singer, and the things that I did before I was a jazz singer, because there was a lot of that too that happened. And they're all the great things that made me who I am today. My name is Nancy Kelly, by the way, and some of you I know me, and some of you I'm just meeting for the first time. It's a great opportunity to make new friends. And so, yeah, I pretty much dedicated my life to an African-American art form. And I am very, very happy to talk about that journey, my journey to jazz, my journey with jazz, my journey to jazz. When I was a little girl, I wanted to start by telling you a story about when I was a little girl, 6 years old. And my mother and I were riding through what I guess you would call the hoodie in Rochester. And I heard music, and I said, "Mommy, pull the car over. I want to hear that. What is that?" And we rolled down the windows, and we could hear the singing coming from the church. I said, "Oh, Mom, they're singing from their hearts. That's the way I want to sing. I want to sing from my heart like that." And that was, I think, the very beginning for me of realizing the direction I wanted to go with music, because they knew where I was going to do music. I mean, I was picking out melodies on the piano at 3 years old, so they had already had it in their heads. This little one's going to go down this path. And very lucky, because my father was a jazz head, man. He was a jazz head. He was a couple things. He was an audio buff. So we had like speakers all over the house. I mean, in every corner of the house, I had some kind of a speaker enclosure. And you know what we listened to? Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Count Basie, Louis Armstrong. But I was just little, and I think that when you're little, I don't think you understand. You know you're hearing it, but I think it kind of seeps into you by osmosis. It's in there, because I went off on my own directions anyway. They got me started playing piano, taking piano lessons, classical piano. She was wonderful. She was a graduate of Juilliard. She was very strict. I wasn't even allowed to come to my lesson unless I had a skirt on. Of course, that was the old days. But some of you can have a good laugh remembering when it was like that. It was the old days. So I worked very hard at piano, and I loved it. And at age 13, I was at college entrance level with the piano. So I was ready to move on at that point, because the Beatles came out, man. The Beatles came out, and I wanted to be a Beatle. What 13-year-old does not want to do that? So my poor mother, she just about had a fit. I mean, she had put so much time and energy into my training as a classical pianist, and I got a guitar and learned 3 chords. But the interesting part of that whole story is that I went through the kind of progression of all through the different forms of music. I didn't realize it at the time that I was on a journey, that I was on this journey to jazz. I didn't know that. But I used to think there was a part of me that was somewhat of a jazz purist for quite a while. And I used to think, oh, there's just nothing but jazz, and we just listen to jazz. But, I now realize how incredibly important it is to have the input and the influence of all these forms of music. It all adds to your vocal library, to your musical thoughts and the way that you approach music. So I started my own little, it was an all-girl band. We were 16, and I was the only one that would sing. No one had the guts to sing. So I got kind of bamboozled into singing. And from there, a fella asked me to join his rock band. Well, I did it because, boy, it was fun. It was really fun. And then I moved on from that. I kind of moved on. I felt like I was always searching. I was there. It was fun. I could do it. It wasn't enough. It wasn't stimulating enough. It was nice, but I moved on. I moved on from that to R&B, of course. Of course, that's where you're going to go when you're searching for jazz, R&B. So I went there and loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Still love it to this day. Huge fan, huge fan. Big fan of a lot of the 80s funk stuff, the crossover jazz funk stuff, Earth, Wind and Fire, Tower of Power, you know, Luther Vandross. I mean, who sings better than Luther Vandross? I don't know. Anyway, I went through that whole thing and still searching. It's still searching. I'd be singing some song that we had learned, and all I wanted to do was change the melody. I just wanted to change the melody. I didn't want to sing what had been sung. I did not want to recreate. I wanted to create. And that was starting to grow in me. It was very obvious where I was headed. Not to me, but if you were to look at the overview of what was going on with that. So I had finally, like a lot of us do, we followed different bands around, and I ended up in Albany, New York, with a really great kind of crossover rock R&B thing. We did a lot of Leon Russell and that kind of stuff. It was really wonderful. It was very musical, and it was not so loud and so bad. It was pretty good. But one night, a fella popped in and he said he had just come off the road with Jimmy Dorsey. And he says, "You got great ears, man." I said, I didn't know what he meant, you know. He says, "I think you could sing jazz." I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And we ended up getting together. Just piano. He was a great pianist, wonderful. Originally from Buffalo, his name was Joe Santora. He was a virtuoso. He was really good. His idea to train me at that point. Now you got to remember, at this point I'm 28. That's a little late to be getting into jazz. But I think, looking back, when you think about all that you did that brought you there, it's all important. As they say, there are no mistakes. Well, Miles says there's no mistakes. There's no mistakes. It all works out. So what Joey did was, he says, "I'm going to teach you the standards. I now teach my I know, because it is funny. He said you have great ears. I didn't know what that meant. It is funny. So wait, I don't want to get lost because this is a good story, a good little progression here. So he took me and taught me the standards, but what he did was he played substitutions for all the chords. He never played the first position or second positions of these chords. He played all substitutions and forced me to find the melody and hear the melody because he knew I could. And I did. And I accredit him for my ability to hear the way I do now. There's no question how that happened. And we did our thing, and we played jazz. We did we had a little jazz trio, and we worked around in Rochester, New York, which is where I'm originally from. Actually from south of Rochester in a little town called Scottsville. I grew up on a hill out in the country overlooking the cornfields while listening to jazz that my father was playing. And from there, I ended up I've moved to Philadelphia several times in my life. Philadelphia has always called me. I don't know why. To this day, it calls me. It is my second home, without a doubt. We went down there and we had a very successful stint down there. I got pulled in, as so many of us did, and I mean, a lot of the cats from New York and a lot of the cats from Philly, we all got pulled into that Atlantic City thing. Trump Castle. We never saw him, thankfully. But that was I had a jazz lounge there. I mean, Chris Connor was down the street. I mean, it was so much fun. Everybody was jazz lounges and all these places. It was a great time. But the thing that happened to me in Philly that was really, really astounding, and you're going to love this story. I was actually living in Wilmington, and I have a lot of friends down there. And hello to so many of my friends that are down in Wilmington, Delaware, and in Philly, people that'll be in my life forever. So I had moved there, and I was living in Wilmington, and I wanted to get a gig singing jazz. And so I got in my car and I marched myself in a black jazz club on Broad Street and Spring Garden. If you're from Philly, you know where that is. I marched myself right in there, and I was the only blonde in the joint. But you know, anybody that knows Nancy Kelly knows that's no thing. That's nothing, man. And so then I proceeded to walk up. It was all organ trios. All organ trio. I walked up to the guy playing organ, and I said, I want to sit in. You want to sit in? Yeah. I sat in. I sang Misty, tore the roof off the sucker, and became the house singer for 4 years. This is where the story gets even more fun. So she had 2 rooms. Her name was Jewel Mann. A very elegant woman, very sharp businesswoman. And we became very dear friends. We were both Libras, so we had that, you know, that thing going where we talk about that all the time. So Jewel had 2 rooms. She had the front room, which I was in with the organ trio. Joe, was his name Joe Johnson, I think. These guys didn't read. They played any tune. It doesn't matter what the tune was, man. You just call a tune and they play it. But there was no music on the bandstand. These are the cats that created this music, man. That's where I learned it. I learned it from the source. That was my jazz. Let me pull this across, you guys, because it's gonna. That was my jazz college, my jazz education, being in with that trio in that club, and all the people that came through, because a lot of people came through and sat in. It was Philadelphia, man. I'll give you a little list of that. But anyway, she had me in the front room, then she had a back room where she had the headliners. And you have to remember, I'm still a little young at jazz. I really was not real hip to everything, you know, that was going on, because I was still learning and just pulling it all together. Even though I had done my intense listening, which that's what you have to do. I mean, I tell my students, and I'll talk a little bit about my teaching in a minute here when I finish this fun story. But you know, you can go to college and you can do what you want, but you have to listen. You have to listen and listen and listen, because that's where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to learn. And the other thing you got to do is play with people that know more about the music than you do. And ones that can kick your butt around the bandstand, which is what happened to me. And it's what made me who I am today, having that happen. And so I got to share the stage. The back room is where the headliners were. And she had like, I got to read this because I'm old and I can't remember things. She had like Dakota Staten, who was on that same label as me, Herbie Mann, Jack McDuff, Houston Person, my dear friend, and one of my favorite jazz singers, Etta Jones. Love Etta Jones. Love. Shirley Scott. She had Betty Carter. Oh my God, Betty Carter? Like, I just stood there and went, what? Whoa. But she had a lot. It was an organ joint, so it was all, you know, Jimmy McGriff. She had there was a local organist who was terrific, Trudy Pitts, tremendous. These people, they taught me everything I know, and I became pretty well known in Philadelphia. I mean, you know, I was on TV a lot. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I really developed quite a following. Oh, I forgot to tell you, little Joey DeFrancesco used to come in. He was 12. Papa John would bring him in and his mom, and they'd bring him in, and he was 12. And he'd get on the bandstand and just tear that place apart. There's nothing left. I'd be going, where am I going after that, man? He was great. Joey and I have remained friends over the years. In fact, you can see we did a concert together a couple years ago. It's up on YouTube. It was just like a great reunion for the two of us. We just had the big love. It was so fun, you know. But anyway, I had developed this really nice following, you know, and we started drawing in is a lot of white people too, which Jewel loved. She'd like, oh my God, this is like great. You know, we're becoming a thing in Philly. So I have to tell you about who was one of my biggest fans. Somebody said, if I don't tell this, I'm going to be in trouble. So for all my, for all my people that follow drag queens, you must know who Divine is. Do you know who Divine is? You'll have to look him up. He was a movie star and one of the most famous drag queens. And he was like my biggest fan. And he would come in. He had a little entourage. Of course, he had an entourage. Oh, come on. And he was not a small person. So they had to clear out the bar. And he'd sit right in front. Oh, my God. So we became good friends over the years. And I became very dear friends with a lot of those people. They're gone. I spent the drummer that I worked with in Philly for a long time, Wilby Fletcher. If anybody knows that name, my God, if you're from Philly, you do. But Wilby toured with Roberta Flack, Michelle Petrucciani. I mean, I can go on and on and on. He was a bad boy. He was a bad boy. And we remained friends until his unfortunate passing. It's good to see so many friends here. Hi, Diane. Good to see you again. Hugs to you too, Diane Reeves. We have an interesting story, the two of us girls, that was so funny. We were in Buffalo, New York at a telethon, of all things. This is before Diane had the wonderful success that she's had. And they made us go up and like sing at the dinner. Like 10 minutes, like little things. Diane was laughing. She goes, dang, I feel like a lounge singer. I said, no shit, man, it's a drag. Oh, that was a fun. I'll never forget that night. So, yes, I'm a big fan. Oh, yes, Gail, you know Divine. I know. I knew you'd love that story. Yes, Wilby Fletcher he was my brother. He was my brother. And he was unfortunately taken by that whole thing that started in the 80s. And in fact, that's why I kind of left Philly. I was very successful in Philly, very, very successful. It was a shame that I left. It was too bad, but I kind of had to flee because it was getting a little nuts, man. It was the 80s. And little did I know the same party was going on all over the country. So I came back up here and ended up working quite a bit in upstate New York. I have a daughter. She has gone through all of this with me. She graduated from John Dickinson High School in Wilmington, which was another thing that I was in love with because it was a very diverse school. And I'm all about that. I'm all about that. And I hope she's listening right now. She's now the mother of my grandson, Graham Jackson, who's studying at the Eastman Community School, who became a virtuoso all on his own. He's only 14. Grandma stays out of it. I don't get anywhere near it. I just stay away from it and let him do his thing. But, he's got me when he needs me, that kind of thing for sure. But anyway, Kelly and I ended up coming. My daughter's name is Kelly. It's not Kelly. I was married. Kelly and I came back here again. And I got in a relationship, another thing that wasn't good. And so I decided to split. And I moved to New York. I moved to New York and I lived in New York for a while. And then Kelly moved to New York. And so I built my network in New York. I tell all my students, look, man, you have to spend time in the city. You have to build your network down there. I'm trying to interject some things for some up and comers that are listening. You have to do that thing where you set up the folks that know you. And I did that. And I ended up coming back here for unfortunate reasons. Our lives are filled. All of us have this, good day, bad day. I mean, that's life. That's just the way it is. Oh, Alan Harris. Hello, Alan. I haven't spoken with you in years. What a talent. What a talent. Good to see you. Good to see you. At one point after coming back here, which I ended up, I'm in the house. The house that you see me in here was our camp. It was our summer camp. And mother and father fixed it up, and I bought it from them, and I live in it, and it's on the lake. It's on Lake Ontario. And it's very peaceful. It couldn't have worked out better for this pandemic. Could not have worked out better. It really was great because, as you can see, I have my home recording studio here. I'm a computer geek, so I had a leg up with the pandemic. I had a leg up. I was already doing Zoom. I've already got students all over the planet because of it. So I've had a ball. I'm home. I'm working. Of course, we're not singing, which is a drag, but I think we will be. I think we'll be back out before too long. I think it's going to happen. If we can get the ding-dongs to take the shot. I don't know. Some of them are, they're holding out. But, yeah, so I came back here, and I've had a blessed career, and my career is long from over. I thoroughly planned. Right before this happened, I had been out in L.A. I did L.A. and Denver. We all played Dazzle. Everybody, we do that little circuit out there. And I came back, and that was the end of that. So there's been no gigs, and I won't do them. I'm a person who will not go out and play. I have lost too many friends that decided they were going to try and do that. So don't do that yet, please. But anyway, years ago, I had to redefine my life because I became one instead of two people, and I started teaching. I had no idea how this was going to affect me and affect so positively the life of so many people. It's like a calling or something for me. Unbelievable what I'm doing here. I put together my own pedagogy. So what I'm doing, there's two things. Let me back up a little because there's something I want to say about me and my singing. First of all, I'm a blues-based jazz singer. For me, that's it. Because the blues is your mama. If you're a jazz singer, the blues is your mama. And I am happy to be a curator of swing and blues-based swing. And I have moments where I think I'll maybe redefine myself and do some other thing. And no, I'm in a really good place, and I'm going to stay in that place. And I'm going to hold up and I'm going to teach blues-based jazz. So that it carries on, because I'm telling you, I don't hear it anywhere. I mean, Mary Stallings, I don't hear blues-based jazz anywhere. Do you? Somebody, I hear jazz singers all over, but I don't hear the real stuff, man. You know, it's evolved, and that's fine. It needs to do that. But I've decided to stay where I am, and keep doing that. Keep putting that out. Yes, blues-based jazz, guys. I've got 5 more minutes. I could probably. I thought, I'll never be able to talk for a half an hour. People that know me know that's just not true, Nance. So what I'm doing, and let me tell you a little bit about what I teach, because it's very different. Because most people are teaching classical voice, and then they teach somebody jazz tunes. Let me tell you something. Just singing a jazz tune does not make you a jazz singer. Does not. So what is jazz singing? What is it? For me, it's spontaneous composition. So I want to be in a room with people that know more about the music than I do, and interact with them and create. Yes. And I'm teaching people how to do that. And I'm teaching people how to use speaking voice. This music started out because of the fields, because of storytelling, because of a chance to be free. It has such an amazing background, and I'm carrying that forward, and I'm going to continue to carry that forward, teaching people to use their voice, not some la la la. Like, I hear so much of that, and I don't like it. You know, what a day this has been. That's my speaking voice. That's what you want. That's what you want to hear. The blues stuff, man. Oh, somebody, who says your hair stands up? I wish I could sing more. I'm not warmed up. I'd have to sing today. So before we leave, I don't have any projects going on. I am working. During that 80s, 90s thing, I had written a lot of originals, and I'm kind of trying to bring them back, like work on them here and record them and see what comes of that, because it's kind of fun lyrics. I have to admit, I write pretty good lyrics, so I really need to get that out there. And of course, I want to do another B3 record. I'm a B3 person. That's my thing. But I did release that wonderful record that I dedicated to Mark Murphy. It was a tribute to Mark Murphy, who influenced me incredibly. Never in my wildest dreams will I be the singer he was, but he's in my heart and soul, and so many people. Go to my website, check out. I got a lot of videos you can watch and see what I do if you haven't known me up until now. NancyKelly.com. Thank you, Gail. NancyKelly.com. And I teach all over the world. So if you're interested, Gail, yeah. Goodbye. Wow. I'm just about done here, folks. I thank you so much. Please keep yourself safe and together, and stay peaceful, and stay in the music, and keep swinging. Keep swinging. I thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.